And tonight, warnings that our economy will be the hardest hit by this virus. We're in for a rough ride, and it's down to our dependence on manufacturing industries.
About 40% of output has fallen per day in the region. The main reason for this is the heavy reliance on manufacturing.
Plus, how farmers here in the East Midlands are dealing with a double whammy of the challenging weather and COVID-19.
And we meet the man who's survived COVID-19 and is planning to run a marathon to raise money for the NHS.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Wednesday's programme with me, Anne Davis. Well, first tonight, I'm afraid there's been a warning that coronavirus will hit the East Midlands economy harder than anywhere else in the UK. That's according to a leading business forecaster. As we wait for the roadmap out of lockdown, well, we'll be looking tonight at how our livelihoods are being hit. First, though, our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Bull's been studying the prediction that the East Midlands is in for a rough economic ride. Doesn't sound good, Jeremy.
Well, yeah, the East Midlands economy is more dependent on manufacturing than any other region. Everything from food and drink to the clothing industry and car manufacturers like Toyota. Now, this lockdown has hit them hard because there's been a huge drop in demand. And today, another warning about the scale of the impact. A new report called UK Powerhouse. It's predicted this region's economy will suffer a loss every day during lockdown of £164 million and cut our productivity, a measure known as GVA, by 40%. That's more than any other region. One reason, its author says, is that fewer people here have jobs where they can work from home.
The East Midlands had the largest negative effect coming out of this lockdown. The services industry is a type of industry that you can particularly work from home with. It allows for remote working because most of it is done through communications and through desktop computers, whereas manufacturing relies on individuals being in factories, especially with the lockdown rules and the self-isolation where you need a minimum of 2 meters apart. Most factories can't accommodate this, which has led to the implicit shutdown of the manufacturing sector.
The lockdown means thousands of people have been laid off from Leicester's textile factories. Some of their bosses are warning that many firms will go out of business. But here at Bombardier in Derby, new working practices to get people back to work with measures like social distancing. The author of today's report says that's the way forward.
Jeremy, this is clearly a huge hit to our economy. Is there any kind of silver lining at all?
Well, there is. They think things aren't anywhere near as bad as they would have been if this had all happened a decade ago. That, of course, is because of new technology. A lot of people can work from home these days. And Darren Park, who wrote that report, told me that 60% of our economy is still up and running. And, of course, that includes a lot of food manufacturers.
And what are those other manufacturers going to do?
Well, lots of questions about that really at the moment. If you've been furloughed, of course, there'll be real questions about how you're going to pay the bills after the end of next month. Now, today at the National Press Conference, there were questions about Rolls-Royce in Derby, taken by the Newark MP Robert Jenrick, who was asked what the government's doing to help.
We've said before that we're willing to consider situations where we would support individual firms, but obviously only when they've worked through the existing government schemes and other ways in which they might be able to raise finance commercially or through existing shareholders. If there's more we can do for Rolls-Royce, we want to do so, and I know that the Business Secretary and the Chancellor are already in contact with Rolls-Royce and will do so again in the future.
And I guess the big question is what everybody's talking about, isn't it? It's lockdown.
Yeah, employers desperate really to know when and how that's going to be lifted. Now, the government, of course, has warned against doing it too soon because if it led to more infections, they'd have to have a second lockdown, and they're worried that would cause even more economic damage. Here's Charlotte Horrobin from a leading business group here in the East Midlands.
I think for a recovery, our members are really seeking clarity right now. Many businesses across the UK, including manufacturers, have depleted their cash reserves. So what we mustn't do is end up in a paradox where the cash has been emptied out of the kitty and we've got orders, but we haven't actually got the capital to be able to bring people back into work and purchase raw materials.
The bottom line, still a lot of worry, a lot of uncertainty, and for the government, some really big decisions about finding the least worst way forward.
That's one way of saying it, isn't it, Jeremy? Thanks very much indeed.